You ever have someone look you dead in the eye and laugh at the thing you've worked your whole life to build? That's what happened to me. The person who was supposed to love me, support me, and believe in me decided to mock me instead. And that was the moment something inside me changed forever. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? I'd love to know who's listening tonight, because what I'm about to share isn't just a story about work. It's about pride, respect, and learning who truly values you when the masks come off. My name's Ethan Cole, I'm 31, and I manage a mid-sized construction and design firm in downtown Chicago. I've been in this field since I was 19. Started as an intern sweeping up job sites, worked my way up to project manager, and eventually became a partner in the company. It's not glamorous work. Most people see steel beams, concrete dust, and safety vests. But to me, every building we finish is a piece of art that'll outlive all of us. Now, my girlfriend, Vanessa, came from a very different world. She worked in fashion PR, surrounded by high-end brands, fancy rooftop parties, and people who used words like aesthetic and curation in every sentence. We met at a mutual friend's charity event. She was magnetic, sharp, beautiful, and confident. I'll be honest, I fell hard and fast. At first, the differences between us felt exciting. She'd talk about her world of luxury events and glossy campaigns, and I'd tell her about blueprints, cranes, and site deadlines. She'd listen, or at least I thought she did. But as the months went by, little comments started to creep in. Babe, you come home smelling like dust. You should really get out of those boots before sitting on the couch. Or the one that stuck with me the most. It's funny how you call it design work. I mean, you just build stuff, right? She said it with a laugh, but I remember the sting. I brushed it off, told myself she didn't mean it the way it sounded. She grew up differently, I thought. Maybe she just didn't understand. But the thing is, misunderstanding is one thing. Mockery is another. It came to a head one Friday night at her friend's birthday dinner. A table full of people. All polished, all dressed in black, all talking about their next trips to Milan or their collaborations with influencers. I felt like a sore thumb in my button-down and work-rough hands. Still, I smiled, listened, tried to fit in. And then someone asked me what I did for a living. I told them I manage design-build projects for commercial properties. Explained how we combine architecture and engineering to handle everything from planning to construction. Before I could even finish, Vanessa chuckled and said, "He says design build like it's an art form. Don't let him fool you, he's basically a glorified construction guy. Think Bob the Builder, but with an office." The table laughed. I forced a smile, but my stomach turned. I looked at her, hoping to see some sign that she realized how cruel that was. But she didn't even blink. She just kept sipping her wine, smiling like it was all in good fun. I barely spoke the rest of the night. The laughter echoed in my head the entire drive home. When we got back to my place, she noticed I was quiet and asked what was wrong. I told her, calmly, that I didn't appreciate being ridiculed in front of her friends. She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, Ethan. It was a joke. Don't be so sensitive. You build things, that's great. But it's not like you're changing the world." That line broke something in me, not because she was wrong, but because she didn't care to understand. That night, while she scrolled on her phone beside me, I stared at the ceiling and thought about how easily she'd dismissed what I loved doing. How quick she was to belittle something she couldn't define. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just decided that next time, I'd show her. The following Monday, I went to work early. The company had been working on a major renovation project for a downtown historic building. A complete transformation of an old warehouse into an open-concept corporate headquarters. I'd been leading the design, coordinating the logistics, handling client relations, everything. It was one of the biggest projects I'd ever been trusted with. As I walked through the site, I could feel the weight of what we were doing. Welders working on the mezzanine, electricians threading wires through ceiling panels, our architects checking measurements. Dust, noise, and precision everywhere. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. That's when the idea came to me. That Friday, I asked Vanessa if she wanted to grab lunch together. She said she was free around noon, so I told her to meet me at my office instead of our usual cafe. I'll show you a little of what I actually do, I said casually. She agreed, mostly because she wanted to check out the famous hard hat look, as she teased. When Friday came, I was ready. I'd arranged for one of our client walkthroughs to line up around noon, so she could see the project in full swing. She arrived in a beige coat, heels clicking across the concrete floor of our office lobby, sunglasses perched perfectly on her head. She looked around with mild curiosity. "It's industrial," she said, glancing at the exposed beams and polished concrete. I smiled. "That's kind of the point." We grabbed some coffee, and I told her I wanted her to come see the warehouse project before lunch. She hesitated but agreed. The ride there was quiet. I think she was expecting a small building or maybe a couple of guys in hard hats hammering things together. When we pulled up, her eyes widened. The site was massive. The building stretched across half a city block. Trucks lined the curb, cranes swung steel frames into place, and dozens of workers moved with purpose. It was loud, chaotic, and alive. As we walked through the entrance, I handed her a safety helmet and vest. She looked at them like I'd handed her alien objects. "Do I really need to wear this?" "Yes," I said with a small grin. "Everyone does." She reluctantly put them on. The second we stepped inside, I started walking her through the process, showing her the structural reinforcements, the blueprint overlays, the design renderings taped on the walls. I introduced her to my team. Engineers, architects, electricians, all of whom treated me with respect and looked to me for direction. For the first time, I saw her go quiet. Her posture shifted slightly, her usual smug confidence replaced by something else. Curiosity, maybe, or realization. We climbed the temporary staircase to the second floor, where the new office wing was taking shape. The sun filtered through the half-finished glass panels, casting shadows on the floor. I pointed toward the open space and said, "This will be a panoramic conference area overlooking the river." Every design choice in this building had to balance history with modern utility. That's what I do. I make sure this place doesn't just stand. It thrives. She didn't say anything for a while. Then, quietly, she asked, "You manage all of this?" I nodded. From the first sketch to the last screw. She looked around again, the scale of it all hitting her. I could see the gears turning. But just as I thought maybe she understood, she broke the silence with a half-smile. "Well, I guess it's more impressive than I thought. Still not exactly glamorous, though." And that was when I realized she wasn't just misunderstanding me. She chose to look down on what she didn't value. That moment changed something in me for good. I didn't argue, didn't try to prove anything more. I simply walked her back to the car, drove her to lunch, and listened as she filled the silence with small talk about her new client. I nodded when she spoke, smiled when appropriate, but my mind was already somewhere else, somewhere past her. Because when someone shows you that your passion is beneath them, there's no argument that can fix that. That day was the beginning of the end. She just didn't know it yet. She never realized how much changed that day, but I did. The drive back from the construction site felt longer than usual. She talked, sure, but I wasn't listening. My mind was in a quiet place, somewhere between pride and disappointment. I'd hoped that by showing her what I did, by letting her see the scale, the responsibility, the leadership, she'd finally respect it. Instead, she just didn't care enough to understand. We had lunch at a cafe near the river. She ordered a kale salad and a glass of white wine, barely glancing at the view. Meanwhile, I kept looking at the water, thinking about how many bridges and buildings along that river I'd worked on over the years. Silent witnesses to every early morning, every late night, every tough decision. And there she was, the person I loved, acting like none of it mattered. I tried to talk about something real. "You know," I said, "it took 3 months just to secure the permits for that project. Coordinating with the city, the preservation board, the client, it's not just manual work. There's a lot of planning, strategy." She cut me off with a soft laugh. "Ethan, you're doing it again. You don't have to sell me on your job." "I'm not selling you anything," I replied quietly. "I just thought maybe you'd like to know what it means to me." She sighed. "You take it too personally. This work, babe. It doesn't define you. And that's when it hit me. For her, work was just a means to an end. For me, it was a piece of who I was. We finished lunch mostly in silence. She spent half of it scrolling through her phone, laughing at something her friend sent. I paid the bill, dropped her off at her apartment, and sat in my truck for a long time after she went inside. Something inside me felt hollow, like I'd spent years building a house on shaky ground, and now I was watching the cracks spread through the foundation. The following weeks were quiet between us. She didn't ask much about work, and I stopped offering. When we were together, the energy had shifted. Fewer late-night talks, more awkward silences. She seemed preoccupied with her social life, her brand events, her endless photo shoots. I buried myself in the project. But the universe has a funny way of testing people. 2 months later, the same building she mocked me for working on was set to have its grand opening. It was a big deal. The client was a well-known corporate brand, and the city mayor was attending. I'd been running on fumes for weeks, finalizing every last detail. On the day of the opening, my boss, a man who'd mentored me since my early 20s, pulled me aside before the ribbon cutting. He smiled and said, "Ethan, this one's yours. You did the heavy lifting, the coordination, the vision. You should be the one to speak today." I was stunned. "Are you serious?" He nodded. "You've earned it." As I stood on that temporary stage, microphone in hand, looking out at the small crowd of investors, city officials, and my team, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. Behind them, the building gleamed, a seamless blend of old brick and modern glass. My fingerprints were on every inch of it. I gave a short speech, nothing fancy, just honest words about teamwork, pride, and craftsmanship. The crowd clapped. My crew cheered. My boss patted my shoulder. And then I noticed something unexpected. Standing near the back, sunglasses in hand, was Vanessa. She hadn't told me she was coming. She'd found out about the event from a mutual acquaintance in PR who was covering it for a local business magazine. She gave a small wave, almost uncertain. I waved back, polite but distant. After the event, as people mingled, she approached me. "Hey," she said softly. "That was really impressive. I didn't know you could speak like that." I smiled, calm and composed. "Thanks. It's part of the job." She hesitated. "I guess I underestimated how much you do." I looked her in the eyes. "You didn't underestimate me, Vanessa. You dismissed me." That landed harder than I think she expected. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. For once, she didn't have a comeback. "I never meant to make you feel small," she finally said. "You didn't," I said evenly. "You just showed me how small I was in your world." There was a long pause. She looked down, fingers twisting her bracelet. A nervous habit I hadn't seen in a while. "I don't know what to say," she murmured. "Then don't say anything," I replied. "Just know this, you mocked the thing that built me. And that's not something I can forget." She nodded, eyes glistening slightly.
"I'm sorry, Ethan."
I believed her, but it didn't change anything. That night, we talked. She tried to explain that her comments were jokes, that she'd never meant harm, that she just didn't realize how deeply I cared about what I did. I listened, but the more she spoke, the more I realized we were from two different worlds. Not because of class or education, but because of values. The next morning, I ended it. Not in anger, not in bitterness, just quiet resolve. I told her she deserved someone who shared her world, and I deserved someone who respected mine. She cried a little. I didn't. I'd already mourned the relationship weeks ago. The months that followed were strange at first. Empty dinners, long nights, but also peace. I poured myself into work. Our company landed another major project, and I was promoted to senior partner by the end of the year. Every time I drove past that renovated building, I'd slow down for a moment. I'd look at it and remember that day she stood there in heels, surrounded by dust and noise, struggling to understand what she was looking at. It reminded me that not everyone will see the value in what you build, and that's okay. You don't build for them. You build for yourself, for the people who share the vision, and for the future that will stand long after the laughter fades. A few months later, I ran into her again, at a gallery opening downtown. She was with a few friends, radiant as ever, dressed in a sleek black gown. When she saw me, her expression shifted. Surprise, then something softer. She came over, smiled politely, and said, "You look good." "You too," I said. There was a brief, comfortable silence. She asked, "Still working on those dusty buildings?" I smiled. "Yeah, just finished a new one last week. Made the cover of Architectural Midwest." She blinked, a mix of pride and regret flickering in her eyes. "I saw it," she said quietly. "You've done amazing things, Ethan." "Thank you," I replied simply. She reached out, lightly touched my arm. "I hope you know I'm proud of you." And maybe for the first time I believed her. But it didn't matter anymore. I didn't need her approval. We parted ways with a smile, no anger, no resentment. Just two people who had once loved each other, now walking separate paths. That night, as I drove home, I passed by the same building again. The lights glowed warmly through its windows, and I couldn't help but feel that quiet satisfaction. The kind that doesn't need validation. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't proving someone wrong with words. It's showing them the results of what they mocked, and letting the silence speak louder than any apology ever could. I pulled over for a moment, rolled down my window, and just watched. The building stood tall against the night sky, strong, steady, and proud. And for the first time in a long time, so was I.